Hello, this is Glen Lennox.
You can't disregard the rules, like you can't throw the ordinance in the garbage can or anything, but you've got a chance to go through and negotiate with the town all the aspects of the development, like density and floor area and impervious cover and all the things that are typically prescribed in an ordinance. You can kind of tweak them to suit the specifics of the development.
We're speaking today with George Retschle, president and owner of Ballentine Associates, the civil engineering and surveying group working with Grubb Properties on the Glen Lennox redevelopment plan. George walks us through his involvement in the project over the last 15 years, starting at the Glen Lennox development agreement all the way to construction and then where we are today. He shares some of the unique hurdles of that process and the creative and sustainable solutions they chose to end at a fair outcome for everyone from neighboring Chapel Hill homes to current Glen Lennox residents.
We assist folks to identify the right piece of property, evaluate the property, help them design the site, locate the buildings on the site, make sure the site has proper drainage and parking and utilities, and then we obtain all the permits they need, site-related permits that they need to do the project, and we assist them throughout the construction of that project until closeout. And we also have a survey department that, prior to the project happening, our surveyors will go out and survey the land and collect all the existing conditions data. And at the end of the project, we'll typically survey the project after it's built to show what it looks like when it's done. I started with Ballentine Associates in 1997. I moved to North Carolina in 95 and been there ever since. I am now the president and owner of the company. We've been involved with Glen Lennox going back to about 2006. Which was when we were involved with the first concept plan that was created for the development, and it was not well received by the neighbors of Glen Lennox, and so that the plan was push the project into a neighborhood conservation district, which for the next 2 or 3 years went through the town's NCD process, and then following that the project, which that process involved a lot of input from pretty much everybody. It was essentially, Grubb kind of reaching out and being forced by the town to reach out to everybody in the community to get input on what Glen Lennox should be. Of course, pretty much everybody loves the nostalgia of Glen Lennox and the natural beauty that's out there and just the kind of relaxing feeling that the site has. And clearly, it was shocking for a lot of people to see the kind of a low density property, being proposed for development of such intensity. And so that's where the pushback really came in. And I think it was an important step in the process to making Glen Lennox what it ultimately will be, which is kind of a nice blend of a little bit lower density and higher density, which is really what the town needs, is some higher density development. And, clearly it was recognized at the time that higher density was needed, but it had to be balanced between the community needs and the town's desire to have something with higher density in it. So the development agreement process began after the neighborhood conservation district process was completed. And Glen Lennox, as you probably know, was the second development agreement ever done in the town, and the first one ever done for a private development. The first one was UNC. We were trailblazing a little bit with private development going through that process. And I personally was there to edit and write parts of the development agreement that really pertained to our field of work, which is civil engineering, a lot of the natural, the environmental type stuff. And we helped with some of the transportation issues and the stormwater management things. And we prepared a lot of the exhibits that went into the development agreement. Now, fast forward a few years, we are the project's, civil engineer and surveyor and planner. And from a civil and regulatory standpoint, I've been kind of guiding that process and kind of tailor it to what Grubb's vision is. One of the major adaptations I can think of is the incorporation of Copenhagenized elements, which are going to help make Glen Lennox one of the most bicycle and pedestrian-friendly communities in North Carolina, as Clay has envisioned. And that is professional guidance there has come from Copenhagenized, the firm that specializes in making communities like this and even whole cities more pedestrian and bicycle friendly. Less emphasis on vehicles and more emphasis on folks that are using bicycles and and walking as a mode of transportation. As I think back throughout the whole history of the project, the most difficult part was kind of getting the development agreement in place. And physically on the site, there's some old infrastructure that we're having to work around, things that are undersized, they need to be replaced. And that's pretty expected for a 1950s or 60s property. So that's not really terribly unexpected. But those are challenging aspects where you've got to replace the old infrastructure. It is an iconic project, and it was an iconic project before we started this work, and it will be an iconic project after we're done with this work. So just two different versions of a very iconic project. The more historical, kind of nostalgic version, the low-density cottages and meandering streets, and then the new version of Glen Lennox is going to be even more exciting than that. So we're just thrilled to be part of the project in general, and it's just a very exciting project.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Hello Glen Lennox, a series we've created to explore the rich history of the beloved Chapel Hill neighborhood and the important role it played in the forming of the town we know today. To listen to other Hello Glen Lennox episodes, or to see what's new in the neighborhood, click the What's Happening link at glenlennoxvision.com.